Thanks for tuning in to my January 13th edition of my weekly video devotion. Our reading today is from Paul's first letter to the Corinthians, chapter 13. If I speak in the tongues of mortals and of angels, but do not have love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have prophetic powers, understand all mysteries and all knowledge, if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. If I give away all my possessions, and if I hand over my body so I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. Love is patient, love is kind. Love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things. Love never ends. But as for prophecies, they'll come to an end. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will come to an end. For we know only in part, and we prophesy only in part. When the complete comes, the partial will come to an end. When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became an adult, I put an end to childish ways. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then we will see face to face. Now I know only in part. Then I will know fully, even as I have been fully known. And now faith, hope, and love abide, these three, and the greatest of these is love. The word of the Lord. This passage is by far the most popular scripture passage that is read at weddings. And this Saturday, January 16th, my wife Diane and I will celebrate our 39th wedding anniversary. When you get married in the middle of January, there are some risks associated with that, especially when it comes to the weather. I was working in the Twin Cities at the time, and this big winter storm was coming in, and I was going to have to leave early, so make sure that I would get down to Indianola where the wedding was. And I had two groomsmen of mine, a cousin of mine, and then my college roommate that were also living in the Twin Cities, and I asked them if they would, I said, please leave today if you can. They couldn't because of work, and so they never did make it to the wedding. But I drove to LaPorte City and met my mother, and we caravaned down to Indianola. I was her only child. My dad had died a few years back, and so the thought of having a wedding day when not all of our family could attend, that was really disappointing to her. The roads were already getting bad when we left, and the trip took a lot longer than we expected it to. When we arrived at Diane's parents' house, we went inside, and lots of her relatives were there, and they were just overjoyed that we'd made it. And, well, it was just too much for my mother. She ran out of the house, got back in her car. I went after her and got in on the passenger side. She said to me, "You're not getting married, at least not this weekend." I looked at her and said, "I'm getting married on Saturday. You can choose to either come back inside and make the best of this, or you can go back home." I have to give my mother credit. Even though she was disappointed, she pulled herself together and ended up enjoying the weekend. You can hear that story and come to the conclusion that I broke the fourth commandment to honor your father and mother. You might be right. But sometimes when you love someone, you have to speak the truth in love. It was best to find Diane, who loves me enough to speak the truth to me, even when it's difficult to hear. I've learned so much from her. I believe she's learned a few things from me as well. Sadly, not all marriages last, and there are times when this is simply unavoidable. For those who experience the pain of divorce, the church should be a place that offers support and comfort to those who are going through that very painful experience. If you are fortunate enough to have a spouse, we must remember to never take them for granted or to take your marriage for granted. And that is the same whether you've been married for 6 months or 60 years. Maintaining a healthy marriage requires a great deal of work and prayer. Thanks for tuning in.